Hey everybody, it's GobletX, and welcome back to another early access premiere draft of Brothers War, the newest set. It is in pre-releases right now at your local game stores and coming to Arena next Tuesday. So thank you once again to Wizards of the Coast for this early access account. But without further ado, let's get into the pack one, pick one. Bushwhack is a very powerful, very flexible uncommon here. It can be mana fixing by pulling any basic out of your deck into your hand, or it can be a fight spell if you need removal at the time. So it is a very nice card there. We've also got a cool rare, the Teething Wormlet here, which is going to get a +1/+1 counter every turn that you play an artifact, only once per turn, but you do gain a life every time you play an artifact, period. So this is a really, really good payoff for making a bunch of Power Stones and stuff, and it's the rare, so probably the coolest card to probably try to build around and play around with. Bushwhack's probably the best card in the pack just for that flexibility, but I'm going to go with the Teething Wormlet here. We'll try out the rare. See if we can make this just a gigantic thing. Caged Sun is a really cool mythic rare retro-framed artifact to open up. This is going to let us choose a color, give all creatures of the chosen color +1/+1, and whenever a land causes you to add one or more mana of the color, you get an additional mana of that color. So if you're a mono-colored deck, this is pretty good, and there are a few cards in this format that incentivize you to try to be as close to mono-colored as possible. So Caged Sun's pretty cool. We could go with that. Fade from History is interesting. It's like a Shatter Storm, but everybody gets a 2/2. Just blow up all artifacts and enchantments, but everybody gets a 2/2. Lauren's really good value, a 4-mana 3/3 Gravedigger for artifacts, and if you play more legends, you get more artifacts back from your grave. Evangel of Synthesis is cool. It shows off the blue-black archetype in the format, which is trying to draw an additional card each turn. So if you draw one card during your turn and then have one card that says draw a card, then you've drawn two in your turn, so you get the trigger. I'm going to go for the Caged Sun. This is probably silly. It's probably not going to work super well, but maybe we get to go like mono green or something. Epic Confrontation is a pretty good fight spell. I didn't even know this was in the format. Pretty nice removal here. 2 mana, +1/+2, something fights something. Excavation Explosion was phenomenal in our last deck. 3 mana for a sorcery, dealing 3 to any target, including your opponent's face, and getting a tapped Power Stone. Painful Quandary is a really nasty card if the game goes long. If you're aggressive at all, it's going to be really, really hard for your opponent to cast spells through this because they're going to have to discard cards every time because losing 5 life is a lot of damage. So Quandary is really cool. Go for the Throat is great removal, and Emergency Weld is a 2-mana Gravedigger. A lot of really good cards in the pack. Might be a little boring here and go for Explosion. This might be better than go for the Throat in this format because a lot of the biggest, scariest cards are artifact creatures. And Explosion just lets you get a treasure as well, or not a treasure, but a Power Stone as well while you're casting it in the early game. Really, really, really liked it in our last deck to the point where I might scoop it up here. Now we have a Horned Stone Seeker. 2 mana for a 2/2 Menace. When it enters the battlefield, create a tapped Power Stone. When it leaves the battlefield, sack a Power Stone. Oh my god. 2 mana for a 2/2 Menace and a Power Stone? Yeah, you lose the Power Stone when it's gone, but until it's gone, this card is ridiculously well rated. Like super, super cheap. Obstinate Baloth, another card that's tremendously good for its mana cost, but I really like that Stone Seeker. I love me some Power Stones trying to cast some big artifacts early. And if you can cast a Caged Sun early, that's going to help you mana ramp like no business. So I'm going to go for Horned Stone Seeker here. Maybe Baloth's better. I don't know. It's pretty close. Baloth is very good. 4 mana for a 4/4 and gain 4 life. Really stabilizes you against aggro decks, getting the largest creature on board for a little while, gaining a bunch of your life back. But this card seems nuts. Really like this little lizard. Also, it reminds me of Spyro with the little gems in its backpack. Little Spyro the Dragon character looking. Very cute, very adorable. Energy Refractor is pretty cool. Draw a card when we play it, and we can spend 2 mana to convert that 2 mana into 1 mana of whatever color we need. So flexible, cool card. Philagi Chain Dancer was actually a fine finisher in our last aggro deck. 4 mana 2/4, you have to dump some mana into it to give it double strike, but 4 mana 2/4 double strike's a pretty good deal. Pallbearer is fine. Temporal Anchor. That's too much text. I'm not reading that right now. Maybe it's good, but I'm not going to figure out what it does. I'll take an Energy Refractor. We'll stay wildly open with that pick. Take the colorless card that can fit decently into pretty much any deck. Corrupt is a relatively big reason to try to play as close to a mono black deck as possible, and Caged Sun is another card that wants us to play as close to a mono-colored deck as possible, so those kind of synergize well together, but we'd have to drop our green card and our 2 red cards most likely. Or we could just play a 2-color deck with a heavier focus on black than any other color. Honestly, it's one of the strongest cards in this pack, so I'm pretty fine with that. Koilos Rock is cool, a lot of mana, but getting a Power Stone out of that is nice. Firebomb's fine if you have a ton of Power Stones to afford that 7 mana ability. But yeah, Corrupt is a very strong card. Damage to any target equal to the number of swamps you control. Okay, pack 1, pick 7. Nothing in black. Moment of Defiance seems like a fine combat trick because you draw a card off of it. +2/+1 lifelink is pretty huge. Drawing the card is what makes it worth it. Yeah, +2/+1 lifelink, even doing that to a 2/2, you're like gaining 4 life, winning the combat, and drawing a card. Yoshin Frontliner was pretty great in our last aggro deck, and like a red-white aggro Unearth deck, this card's really good. We've got some really good red cards already, and we're not missing all that much here. By taking a speculative pick in white, I'm going to take the Frontliner. Now, pack 1, pick 8. 2 mana 3/1 reach seems good for an aggressive red deck. Just a 2 mana 3/1 basically for aggro. 2 mana 2/2 can't be blocked by artifact creatures, and if you get a ton of Power Stones to where you have a ton of mana, you can start dumping extra +1/+1 counters on this later. Seems fine. Green deck with a lot of Power Stones is a great place to be with Teething Wormlet. And our Gothian Sprite seems like it would want pretty similar things. Don't know for sure what we're doing right now. We're staying pretty open. There's like no black cards coming around, so the whole Corrupt Caged Sun package might not pay off. Perimeter Patrol seems pretty strong in a deck that's making a lot of Power Stones. The 3 mana 3/3 is already a fine rate, and then you just get a little bit of a bonus as you're making Power Stones, making it a 4/3 or 5/3 as you're attacking. Green-red Power Stone aggro. Best card in this pack's easily Prison Sentence. I could take that here and just be red-white aggro again, but I do have some very nice green Power Stone-oriented cards here. But I think this is a draft pot. I'm probably supposed to just be red-white Unearth Artifact aggro again, because we wheel the Lauren as well. So we could have had that great white removal spell and then take the Lauren here. But let's draft something a bit different. If I were strictly trying to win, I think probably just Boros aggro for a second 7-0 is possible in this draft pod. We're seeing a lot of the key pieces. Phalanx Vanguard's back again. Another great one. But Epic Confrontation is also back, and that seems pretty good for green-red aggro. You're going to have some beefy creatures that can fight well, especially when they've been given +1/+2. All of this looks pretty much like nonsense. It's all just a little bit too much mana for what it's doing. Doesn't play perfectly well on curve. Yeah, not super into any of it. I guess I'll take the Pallbearer. Send a sign to others not to draft green today. And my apologies if I seem a little bit distracted, or if you hear any cats running around. The cats were freaking out, so we're letting them in the office to hang out. Well, the office is just my bedroom. We're letting them in my bedroom to hang out, because nobody else is here right now, so they're lonely. Alright, our Gothian Opportunist is a great common, one of green's best commons for the Power Stone archetypes, which is what we're trying to do with our green-red deck here with our Teething Wormlet and stuff. So that seems like a pretty good choice. However, there's also just the super efficient red removal spell, which is Obliterating Bolt. 2 mana, 4 to a creature, Planeswalker, and Exile. It seems like a really good deal. We only have 2 red cards right now, so we're not necessarily tied to red. We could go for Urza's Command. 4 mana for an instant. I could make a tapped Power Stone and a tapped Construct. Power and toughness equal to the artifact you control, which is at least a tapped 2/2. So 4 mana flash in, a tapped 2/2, and a tapped Power Stone is the worst this can be. It's really flexible. Pretty powerful card. We could go like green-blue Power Stones here, but I'm going to go for Obliterating Bolt. That's also a pretty good card. Probably not as powerful, but our other 2 red cards are really good. Explosion and Stone Seeker, and they both make Power Stones, which really helps with the green strategy we have right now. Alright, Mazemind Tome is incredible card draw for pretty much any deck in Limited. So This should be a great card for anybody in this format. 2 mana play it, and then 2 mana tap it, draw a card. You can do that 4 times, and then you gain 4 life after you've done it 4 times. Very good piece of value. Kind of slow, but it really pays off in the end. So we'll go with that. Takazia's Welcome was a card that didn't look particularly good to me in my last draft, because I was like, well, you kind of have to take a turn off spending 3 mana for this, but you can like wait till turn 5, wait for this to be the last thing you do, and then on turn 5 you get to cast this for 3 mana, and then spend 2 mana to cast a 2-drop and draw a card during that turn. And it really helps you never run out of gas, especially if you have creatures with mana value 3 or less that have Unearth. Those are the ones that are really good, because you trade them off early, and then later unearth them, trigger your Takazia's Welcome, and draw another card. So let's see. Phyrexian Revoker is interesting. It's a 2 mana 2/1 for anybody, and if your opponent has a good activated ability, you get to shut it off. Hey, Rose. Don't scratch the floor. So that's interesting. It doesn't seem super powerful to me. Strongbowl's a really cool way to use all of your extra Power Stones when you don't need them anymore. You just throw them all at your opponent's face. 1 damage per thing you sack. Scrapwork Mutt is a really solid role filler, because it unearths later, it sets up your draws throughout the game. I did like Scrapwork Mutt a lot in our last deck, so Mutt, Revoker, Strongbow looked the best here. I'm just going to go for another Mutt. I was pretty interested. Pretty interested in that card in the past, and I think it should work well here too. So we're probably like green at the core with red as a splash. Try to get the Cage Sun to work as well as possible. That's probably what's going on here. Nothing here for green-red really. There's a Tinkering, a Raise to the Ground. You can play one of these main deck. There's a lot of good artifact creatures to blow up, but it's never going to be super exciting. I'm not ramping into all that much. I'm kind of just using Power Stones for extra power on my abilities, so I don't really need a Tower Worker adding mana. Pack is not very good for us. The best cards are like a Scrapwork Rager as a good value card, a Weakstone Subjugation as a blue removal spell, or a Gnawing Vermin. Good cheap value card. I don't like any of it. I'll take the Stone Retrieval unit. Theoretically fits that Power Stone theme. 4 mana for a 2/3 that spits out a Power Stone tapped. Sentinel Stalwart. Good way to use your Power Stones to get an actual mana that you can use on anything instead of just artifacts or abilities. We don't have any way to sack anything, so I don't think Sibling Rivalry is going to be super powerful. Emergency Weld is one of the strongest cards here. Nice little Gravedigger effect. Graveyard Recursion. Scrapsmith is pretty fine. Mill 3, if we mill an artifact, we can put it back into our hand. Take a Scrapsmith here. I don't think Stalwart looks super impressive. It'd be fun to try a little bit, but not massively excited by it. Alright, a blue removal spell again. A great blue creature. The pivot into blue is looking like it would have been the best spot to be here. If I didn't commit to going red-white aggro pack 1, which was the other opportunity we had. Yeah, if we had the pivot to blue taking like a wing commando now, and we'd have had a subjugation earlier, that could have been pretty good. Just take a Haywire Might. I'll try main decking it and see if it ever works or not. If I have the room to. I'm not gonna like fight to get it in my deck, but we'll find out. Take another Scrapwork Mutt here. Now we're seeing some black cards. Disciples of Gix is a really cool one with all the Unearth cards in the format. This searches for 3 of them, puts them in your grave, and you've got a bunch of Unearth set up. Skyfisher Spider is also just a really strong card. Sacrifice another creature to destroy any non-land permanent, and then when this dies, you gain a ton of life as well. Really brings you back in the game. Some very, very good cards there. Ooh, I found a thing to use all of my Power Stones on. Rust Goliath, 10 mana, 10/10 reach, trample, don't mind if I do. This was one of the things that got me initially really excited in this format, is that it's been a while. It's been since like Rise of the Eldrazi, where there was just a common like 8 mana creature that you could actually plan to cast. And this is a format where hopefully, fingers crossed, this 10 mana 10/10 is something you can plan to cast. Of course, worst case scenario, you get a 5 mana 3/5, which is a really big blocker, so that can be fine. I'll take the Chain Dancer here now. Oh yeah, blue does feel wide open. Really aggressive flyer here. The wing commando with that stat line. We've seen a lot of those. We've also seen a lot of the subjugation. Blue's common removal spell. Too late for us now, but there's nothing for the deck, so I might as well just take a wing commando, just in case something really weird happens that pushes us completely off of our current game plan. Protection from multi-cut, this is just unplayable in draft. Sorry, Spectrum Sentinel. Take a Tanos' Tinkering. Probably don't want to run it. It's a little bit expensive for that kind of trick. I mean, so it looks like we have a pretty reasonable deck already. And which is a great place to be moving into Pack 3, where Pack 3 just becomes where you really narrow down your deck to just your best cards, and every pick you make, you're getting to cut a bad card to change things around. Pretty great place to be if you're not staying like widely open during Pack 1, Pack 2. So what do we have here? Another perimeter patrol seems fine. Or this or another non-token artifact is put into the graveyard from battlefield or put into exile from the battlefield, get a tapped Powerstone. It feels like it's probably a little too slow. This pack doesn't look incredible for us. I'm guessing I'm just taking the 3 mana 3/3. I don't have a lot of 3 mana stuff to do. I'm trying to really focus in on one color for Cage Sun to be as powerful as possible. So I take the Patrol over the Scrapsmith, I guess. I mean, it's probably better to just cut Cage Sun and play Scrapsmith. Just be a regular green-red deck, but who knows. We definitely can't play an Urza. Very cool card, but uncastable to us. Nice, we get past the build around red-green common. This card is sweet. It's incredibly flexible, and every mode is a very good deal. 3 mana for a 2/2 that deals 1 to any target, or 3 mana for a 3/3 trample haste, or 3 mana for a 2/2 and get a Powerstone token. Super into it. The Philagi Vanguard, that's a really good Boros aggro card. That would have been sick in our last deck. Really good with the Unearth stuff as well, because you can guaranteed get like multiple enter the battlefield triggers really easily, because every time you trade those creatures off, you just replay them again the next turn. There are so many sick cards in this format, it's insane. Like Titania, Voice of Gaia, we are already very heavy green, and now we can take a 3 mana 3/4 reach. Whenever lands are put into our graveyard from anywhere, we gain 2 life. The beginning of our upkeep, if there are 4 more lands in our graveyard. Oh, I guess it's just a 3 mana 3/4 reach, because we can't meld it ever. But 3 mana 3/4 reach, I mean, that's still a good deal. It's probably better than Opportunist. Not by a lot, but by a tiny bit. It's also cooler because it's mythic, and maybe somehow we get past Argoth. That feels pretty impossible. Whatever, I'm taking Titania, and you can't stop me. Bushwhack, now we get to take that phenomenal limited card, very flexible card, grabs us a land when we need it, or fights a creature when we need it. Blanchwood Prowler's another good one. 2 mana for a 1/1 that mills us 3. If we mill a land, we get to put that land into our hand if we want it. And if we don't, we just get a +1/+1 counter on it. Blitz Automaton's a great one, very flexible card. We can haste that in as a 3 mana 3/2, or late game finish our opponent off with a 7 mana 6/4 haste. Take a Bushwhack though. Very flexible. Probably don't have room for the mites. Fractor doesn't seem like it has a huge purpose in here, so I'm likely cutting that as well. More green-red cards. What do we have? Bonesaw, that's very low impact. Another Scrapwork Mutt? Am I so into Scrapwork Mutt that I want another? I don't have enough expensive cards to want the Philagi Excavation here, and it played really badly in the last deck I tried to use it in. Infantry was fine, but it's not exciting. I guess I'll take another Mutt. Don't love the Honor Guard here. Triple Scrapwork Mutt is also a bit much. I'm not so sure about that. We get paid off with the Blanchwood armor for being as heavy into green as possible. Run like 11 forests in here. obviously it's an aura, so you can get 2 for 1 pretty badly, but if you think of it as like a sorcery that's like 3 mana, gives something +5/+5 till end of turn, like even if your creature immediately dies, you get pretty big impact out of it by getting a lot of extra damage, or making something that couldn't attack able to attack. And if your opponent doesn't immediately have the removal to kill whatever you put it on, they're probably going to die. It's obviously at its best with a lot of trample creatures in your deck. We only have a couple, unfortunately. If I could get more tramplers, that card could be nuts. Heavyweight Demolisher, we do have the red mana to actually unearth this card, which is pretty sick, so I think I will take that here. And we've got a lot of Powerstone stuff and not a lot to do with them, so we'll grab that alongside our Rust Goliath as a big card to dump all our Powerstones into. Not in love with anything in this pack. Arms Race is really cool, but it's really slow. Essentially have to take a turn off, just spending 4 mana to get this out, and then another 4 mana the next turn to put your card into play, like your Rust Goliath, and then even then it just dies the turn you play it. I'll just take this Razor Maw thing, but I don't think I'm playing it. Random Powerstone producer I'm probably not playing. Probably just wrapping things up here. I don't know how I feel about this cage, so I might cut that. In the end, sadly. If we like lived the monocolored dream, it could be really cool, but we definitely did not. This Dragon Engine is not bad. A 3 mana 1/3 flyer or an 8 mana 5/5 flyer, neither of those are great, but the fact that both of them are on one card is what makes it good. Makes it flexible here. That's a 5-drop. I don't love these pallbearers. Got plenty of big stuff to play thanks to prototype cards, so we can cut those. And then this is a 23 card deck. This might just be the deck. Ooh, got a Blanchwood Prowler back. Never mind. That might be going in the deck as well. And I cut one of the mutts for that. Take a Stalwart. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 non-creature things. 17 creatures, that's like plenty. With this 1 toughness card in the sideboard, there are definitely some 1/1s in this format, and that will be horrible against 1/1s. I think this is just the deck. I don't really think I need to do any deck building since I kind of did it during pack 3 there. This looks like about what I want. I do have good cards in the sideboard, but I don't think they fit the deck as well as what I currently have in there. Yep. Pretty happy with the looks of things as they are. I'll do one quick double check, just scan through real quick, but pretty sure we have a perfectly reasonable just green-red aggro deck here, 17 creatures. Some flyers, some menace cards, and some trample to throw Blanchwood Armor onto. We could even throw Blanchwood Armor onto a double striker, which would be hilarious. Love that Arbalest. Titania is fine. Perimeter Patrols are fine. 3 mana 3/3s. Some of our best ways to use any of the Power Stones that we make are just these little dorks. And unfortunately, I really did not get many Power Stones after that initial pack and a half. So for Power Stone production, we have Horned Stone Seeker, Arbalest Engineers, Excavation Explosion, Stone Retrieval Unit. So yeah, we only got 4 actual Power Stone producers. At that point, I kind of want to cut the Demolisher, because this is the one that's the worst when we don't have Power Stones, right? Because we really need to get to that 7 mana. But the rest of these, like, I can prototype it there. I can prototype this one at 5. What? All right. Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't have too many massive things on the curve. I could actually just get rid of one of the 3s instead, because I do have a lot of those, like cut a Perimeter Patrol. But yeah, it doesn't feel like I have as much Power Stone production as I was hoping for in the end. Still have just a pretty good, consistent, just like green-red aggro deck. Relatively good artifact count to just trigger the cards like Wormlet off of regular artifacts instead of Power Stones. There's pretty much nothing in the deck that like has to use Power Stones to be good. Right, because our cards are all flexible or just decent upfront value. Except for the Demolisher. But I still want to keep that kind of high mana value card in there. because it's not that expensive. A 7 mana 8/6 menace. It's really not that expensive. I did just cut one of my 3 drops. Was there anything to put in that's better than that? Or am I just putting that right back in? I could put Scrapwork Mud in. I think this works really well with the Teething Wormlet because it enters the battlefield once, and then it enters the battlefield again when we unearth it, so it can trigger the +1/+1 counter ability on the Wormlet twice throughout the game. Yeah, I'll just put another Scrapwork Mutt in over the 3-drop. We'll call it a deck. I'm going to put another Forest in over a Mountain. I don't have any double red cards, and I want to keep that green source count high for Blanchwood Armor. Alright, here we have a look at the completed deck for the 3rd Premier Draft during the Early Access event of Brothers War. This is going to be a green-red aggro deck, really consistent curve of creatures throughout the game, as we've seen how good that can be in our Boros deck last time. So we've got all those kind of consistent creatures curving out, a few Powerstone producers, and some prototype cards. So if we do get a lot of mana late game, we also get to use these as big bombs, a gigantic flyer or a gigantic trampler. We've also got a Blanchwood Armor, which is really fun to throw onto a flyer or a trampler if we're lucky. And some good cheap removal to keep the path cleared. The Excavation Explosion, Obliterating Bolt, Epic Confrontation, and Bushwhack. We also have a Mazemind Tome for really good value, so great card from the retro framed artifact slot as well. So really nice, just pretty standard green-red beats, not too rampy, not too like super low curve aggro. We're just like somewhere right in the middle, like mid-rangey green-red, where we can do some big ramp stuff. We can also just curve out real quick with some early game aggro. So nice consistent green-red aggro pile here. So we'll see how it goes as we head into the gameplay. Alright, here we are in game 1 with our green-red aggro deck. Great curve, we're going for it. Our opponent is on the play here though, but we are getting a lot of Power Stones real quickly. And we're going to use those powers to immediately just draw a ton with Mazemind Tome or play an early heavyweight Demolisher. This could be some sweet stuff if our opponent doesn't have the cheap removal to blow up the Stone Seeker. If they do, they will be blowing up the Power Stone while they blow up the Stone Seeker. Mono red so far from opponent with a Atomical Scrapsmith. They've milled some red and black sources, a mountain and a swamp, so they are on Rakdos, which is a very sacrifice synergy focused archetype in this format. Let's play our Arbalest Engineers and get another Power Stone here. Six mana for artifacts available next turn. Here's a Stone Retrieval unit from our opponent. They're getting their own Power Stone. We'll trade the Engineers off here. Trade our 2/2 into the 3/2. Got a Scrapwork Mutt now. Can play a Tome, draw a card off of it, and still play Mutt this turn. Seems pretty fine to me. Definitely getting in with our Menace. We're not going to block with Stone Seeker. We don't want that to die, or we will lose one of our Power Stones. I don't have anything I really want to discard to this Mutt, but Perimeter Patrol would not be bad. I'm just going to not discard here. Alright, the 2/3 Stone Retrieval unit is coming on in. Never mind. It's hanging out, it's holding back, and now a Mishra's Juggernaut. 5/3 trample, attacks each combat if able, and it can unearth. That seems like a great opportunity to obliterate Bolt. Because we'll exile that so they can never unearth it, and now we get to get in with our Menace creature again. Hit another land, so I'm ready to cast Heavyweight Demolisher next turn, as well as an 8 mana version of the Dragon Engine. The turn after that, this is more Power Stone gas than I've been able to do before. The Power Stones just with an activated ability like that on Mazemind Tome is really, really good. I mean, Mazemind Tome's just a good card, period, but with the 2 Power Stones by its side, that's been great. Ooh, Goblin Charbelcher, absolute classic and key to the city. Opponent's doing some fun stuff too. They're not in a great position here, luckily for us, but these are some scary cards. They reveal till they hit a land, deal damage equal to the land to any target, or they make something unblockable and then draw a card off of it later. So cool stuff. 1 mana off from the Dragon Engine, so I'm just going to play the Heavyweight Demolisher here. And we are not going to draw a card off Maze Mind Tome because we don't have the mana to do that and play the Gigantic card. So here's the Heavyweight Demolisher. And I do, of course, with the Power Stones, have the mana to go ahead and make sure this does not tap itself. So our opponent is going to have to blow this up with something or die to a gigantic menacing threat. Alright, they're going for it. They're hoping to hit 6 non-lands, and it's immediately a land. It's immediately a land. Brutal. So that's 0 damage, and they scoop it up. Goblin Charbelcher. A very, very random card in Limited. It's a fun one. I'm probably going to play in Sealed a few times at least, and maybe it's decent in Draft even. But very, very coin flippy when you're not playing Constructed, because you never know when you're going to hit that land card. So flip cards off the top. For each non-land card that you hit before you hit a land card, you deal that much to whatever you targeted. If the land card that you reveal is a mountain, you get to deal double that damage. So probably in red decks, it's probably good in Limited. But the idea behind this round, the reason it is a classic, iconic card that makes it into the retro framed artifacts in the set, is that it's really good and Constructed because people have built decks around it where there are only 1 land card in the deck, or where there is only 1 land card in the deck. So you just reveal until you hit like your 1 Taiga, which is a mountain, and you guarantee just deal like 40 damage to your opponent, like every game. So Charbelcher, a legacy strategy there. Very cool card. We're going to start off 1-0 heading into game 2. Here we are game 2 with our green-red aggro deck. I am going to keep this hand, although it is quite slow. I'm probably not going to force myself to cast this thing till I hit 10 mana. The other issue is we don't have a lot of green sources. We have 10 forests, 7 mountains, because we do have a Blanchwood armor in here. So if we do hit that Blanchwood armor, probably not going to be great. Let's drop the Blanchwood Prowler, which I just now read its name. That's kind of cute, the Prowler to go with the armor. I will hit that land. We need to hit 1,000,000 lands to cast this Rust Goliath later. Maze Mind Tome was a really nice draw. If I trade for the Powerstone Engineer, they do get a Powerstone, which isn't great for me. But I don't think I can just sit here, take 2 damage every turn forever. I'm going to have to kill that eventually. Alright, an Airlift Chaplain from our opponent, 3 mana, 2/2 flyer. Can blow that up real quick and get a Power Stone. I would like to do that. So I shall. Another Power Stone from Stone Retrieval Unit sets us to 6 mana ready on turn 4. We're getting there for Rust Goliath. We're on the way. Cool. Would I rather draw a card here or just get the 2/3 down? Let's get the 2/3 down. We'll draw off Maze Mind Tome later. 6 mana now for artifact spells or abilities. 7 mana next turn. So yeah, 7, 8, 9. I only need to hit 1 more land all game to get to Rust Goliath, but I do need to wait several turns. I need to actually play all these lands first. We've got a plan here, and we're not under a lot of pressure life total-wise. We're taking 1 damage a turn, and our Tome's going to gain us 4 life eventually, so we can use all this card advantage to try to stay in the game if our opponent does play some threats. Recommission on the Airlift Chaplain, immediately gets a counter on it and mills some more. Black-White Reanimator does seem really sick. Amy the Amazonian had a really, really good deck in Black-White against us in the very first draft of the Early Access event. It was super scary. But even just reanimating the cheap cards that mill yourself like is a really good synergy. Bushwhack, that's interesting. That's actually pretty good here. Kill the Chaplain. Very reasonable draw. All for it. And I'm back to taking 1 damage a turn. We can block the Burnished Heart all day long, so they probably just sacrifice that to get a couple more lands. We have 7 mana total on board now. We have the 8th, 9th, and 10th in hand. So the win condition is Rust Goliath, but ideally we draw some more threats off of our Maze Mine Tome so that we can draw the removal out of their hand. They are black-white. 2 colors very well known for the amount of removal that they generally have. So I would really rather not Rust Goliath be the first threat that I play all game. Alright, now we have an extra land, so we can definitely discard one of these to the mutt. Perimeter Patrol, there we go. Not like a massive threat, but decently sized. What is this? What's going on here? Oh, they're just grabbing the lands, yeah. Yeah. Save a couple life while they pull the lands out of their deck. Fair. Opponent could play a very expensive artifact if they have one, and there are some really, really, really big ones. Some massive blowout rares and mythics. So cross our fingers, nothing super duper scary here. Opponent does have all the mana in the world to start surveilling as well with Tocasia's Dig Site. I should really look up how that is pronounced. I will do that before the set officially releases. But you're going to have to deal with my really bad pronunciations. I can't find an official pronunciation. I'm just going to keep saying Tocasia. Oh no, I looked away and there's a Hero of the Dunes. This card is nuts. This card is so good. A 5 mana 3/2 that returns any creature with mana value 3 or less from your grave to the battlefield and gives all of them +1/+0. This card is completely absurd. It's really, really good here, yeah. 8, 9 mana, 1 mana away from playing the 10/10. And as soon as I play it, they're just going to have removal that they've left because they're just killing me in the sky here. Alright, come on, let me draw a removal spell here. Cheap removal, cheap removal. More mana. We're so dead in the sky. I guess we have to just crack back at them. Do everything we can on the ground. Yeah, they're only attacking us with 1 creature on the ground. Trade with Hero of the Dunes? Do they have a reanimation to use on the hero? Oh my god. Yeah, this black-white reanimator deck archetype has been just the stone cold nuts. The 2 times I've faced it. If my opponent does have the reanimator spell for that uncommon there, because then they get it back, get the trigger again to get another flyer. Our opponent's milled down to just like 11 cards left in their library, so they have like every option if they do. Oh my god, and they have the Portal to Phyrexia, which makes me sacrifice my entire board, and they get to reanimate a creature of their choice out of either graveyard each turn. Yep, from any graveyard during their upkeep. Portal to Phyrexia, one of those rare / mythic super high mana artifacts that just completely wins the games that I was talking about. And my opponent already had the lead before that, but now there's no possible way we're getting anywhere here. I could play a 10/10, but they're just going to kill it anyway. I'm just going to draw a card here and scoop it up, probably, because they're just going to reanimate everything. I'm not going to scoop any of the early access games. We'll play them out the whole way, but more mana. Okay, I don't see a way that we beat a Portal to Phyrexia. Yep, they bring back their Hero of the Dunes and a flyer alongside it. This one gives their whole board +1/+1 for 5 mana. They can do it twice pretty soon. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, if they play a land, they can do it twice. They unearth the Scrapwork Rager as well. Draw another card. Maybe we can mill them out. I doubt it. We don't have anything in our deck that can mill them. But maybe somehow they get like a tiny bit too greedy or something. Down to 11. I'd be monumentally surprised if my opponent does not have removal in their hand. They are going to prison sentence the Wormlet. Well, the correct play not to run out the Rust Goliath, because they had the removal for the Rust Goliath. And I have another land. Well, I have no choice but to hope we ran them out of removal now. Please, please stay on board. I am begging. I cast a 10 mana 10/10 this game. You can't take that away from me. Alright, as expected, they do have the removal. And we are dead on board to the activated ability. 1-1 heading into game 3. Alright, game 3, we're on the play here. We've got our big dorks for the late game. 3 mana already. Blanchwood could hit a 4th. We'll roll with it, see how it goes as the Brushwag rolls on in. Gnawing Vermin, mill somebody for 2 when it hits the board. A lot of good stuff for milling yourself, so that's usually how it gets played, but our opponent is going to mill us, which is interesting. They do mill our Blanchwood armor, so much for that one. Blanchwood Prowler is going to hit a land for us. Opponent has an Evolving Wilds out so they can get a man of any color. I'm assuming they're going to pull out a basic island from the deck for this Combat Courier's Unearth ability. Scrapsmith is pretty bad against the Vermin, because when this dies it gives something -1/-1, so if I have 2/1 toughness creatures on board, that's going to be really bad. Yeah, we'll drop the Argothian Sprite, I guess. Pass the turn. Mountain is the pick, so no blue source for the Combat Courier yet. They do have one in hand, though, so they are blue, red, and black. Now, Battlefield Butcher. This card is absurd. I couldn't believe this card when I read it in the set review. Or in the set review, and other people's set reviews that I looked through. It's 5 mana, tap it, each opponent loses 2 life. And it costs 1 less to cast for each creature in your graveyard, so it just sits there with its gigantic booty, blocking annoyingly well, and just closing out the game without even having to attack in. The card is nuts. So we do have 4 mana here. I am actually really interested in drawing more lands, so I might even just bushwhack for a land here. Just trying to get to like 7-8 mana, just try to play really, really big threats. I'm just going to play a Scrapsmith here, and I'm just going to make sure that it has 2 toughness, I think. Oh, but Maze Mind Tome? Alright, well, I guess this Vermin gets to be very good, and I'm going to pick up a land here. While I've got that mana up. Latchnam Adept. When they draw their second card each turn, get a counter on it. That's fine. Now we set up the Maze Mind Tome. Could kill this Adept. Does get a permanent +1/+1 counter on it, and they have card draw on board. Yeah, that's right on the border of scary enough to kill. Especially because if they play anything bigger, I'm not going to have a big enough board to kill it anyway. So one of the things about Maze Mind Tome is you can just tap it to scry, but you can only use it 4 times no matter what, whether you used it to scry or draw, so I usually try to play really greedy with it and just get like full maximum value. Just get full card draw each time. But sometimes if your opponent's really aggressive, it's best to just... it's best to get the scry out of the way so they shouldn't get it to exile itself faster and get the life gain. I'm going to bolt this Butcher. Hopefully they don't have a counter here. Yeah, like this butcher's just going to sit there killing us over a long game. Pretty threatening. Okay, they do. It's not a direct counterspell, but it's a very good card. They get to bounce it back to their hand and get a +1/+1 counter on this, and now they just have an absurd flyer. 2 mana for a flash 3/2 flyer. Zephyr Sentinel is a ridiculously good card. 2 mana flash for a 2/1 flyer is the worst this card can be, and it can also bounce any creature you control to your hand. So you can save something from removal, and if you bounce a soldier, you can get a +1/+1 counter on this and make it a 2 mana flash 3/2 flyer that saved one of your cards from removal, which is completely busted if that happens, and that is what happened to us, so we are not having a fun time against that. I do have an explosion to blow that up now and get a Powerstone, which feels really good. So great draw there. Unfortunately, my opponent might have another piece of interaction. This could just be Combat Courier's ability holding for them. Alright, we get the Powerstone. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 mana. 1 mana away from the Dragon Engine. Draw a card off the Maze Mind Tome. Get a Teething Wormlet. Well, that makes me wish I did that before I played the removal, because then I would have a counter on this card, and that would be sweet. So the Butcher is summoning 6, we're not taking any damage from it this turn. It does have to tap to use its ability. Opponent's a little confused. Rereading it over here. Or they might be doing some kind of other trick that requires using that and something else here. Alright, I don't know. They read the Butcher a lot and some of our cards a little bit, so I'm not sure. 6, 7 mana. I do have the mana to start putting counters on the Sprite, which is kind of sick. I could also play the Demolisher, but then I do have to pay 3 mana every turn to untap that thing. That does really take over the game quickly, though. Yeah, let's just start casting 1 Mega Bomb every turn, and one of them will stay around eventually. And if none of them stay around, we just start putting counters on the Sprite. This feels like where we're like, yeah, we got there. Mana-wise. But yeah, Butcher's gonna be very rude to us. But hopefully this Demolisher gets to be equally rude to our opponents. I gotta spend 3 mana. If they have instant speed removal, they can punish me pretty hard here by forcing me to spend 3 and then killing it. Get in there, gigantic Demolisher. Double block with the chump blockers. This is very okay. Draw a card off the Combat Courier. And they'll kill one of my 1/1s with the Gnawing Vermin. I guess they'll kill my 2/1. But the Demolisher's still around for now. Which is very good. That will win the game faster than the Butcher does by a little bit. I draw a card here. If I can hit a land, I'll be able to cast my Perimeter Patrol again. Or as well, I should say. And I did. Probably should have tapped all my red mana that way. Could maybe play Titania there instead. 3/4 reach. Scrapwork Mutt. Opponent discards a card, draws a card. Battlefield Butcher is 1 creature in grave away from being able to just deal 2 to us for free. But again, we have massive stuff on board, so hopefully we can just outrace them. Alright. Finish off the Maze Mind Tome here. Go up to 18. Another mana. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 mana total on board. I play this and I have my 9th. I'm still 1 away from Rust-Goliath, so we do play this. We don't want to mutt that away. I'm into putting an artifact out this turn, though. Don't think I'm discarding Titania, but this will trigger my Wormlet and my Perimeter Patrol, so I think it's a little better than playing Titania this turn. Wormlet's getting there. Not attacking yet, but it's getting there. It's also just gaining us life every turn, which is good too, against this Battlefield Butcher that keeps making us lose life with its activated ability. Alright, we just slam our opponent for 8 this time. They are down to 12 now. We are up to 19, but Battlefield Butcher's ability is officially free, so that is gonna drain us for 2 every turn, even if they hold 0 mana up. However, if they unearth any of those cards, then those will no longer be in the graveyard, so the Butcher will start costing a little bit of mana again, sorry. So whenever our Heavyweight Demolisher dies, we won't have to spend the mana for it anymore, and we can just play these other threats, but again, as I said before, if it never dies, then it'll just kill our opponent by itself. So it's kind of okay that I keep having to dump mana into it, because it is enough on the board to win this game. Ooh, it's gonna die. There we go. Usually not that excited for your gigantic card to die, but this means I get to play other stuff now. Alright. Send it in. Trade it off with a Warplow and the Butcher here. Sure. It is dead. I can also unearth it for a just absurdly massive attack, but for now, play this big double striking 2/4. If I draw a land, I'm casting a 10 mana 10/10 Reach Trample, which is just the best feeling in the universe. If I don't, I'm still casting a 5/5 flyer, which is pretty big, but the numbers just aren't as absurd when you say 5/5. Alright, Urza. Opponent gets to make some Power Stones as they draw and discard, and they have a looter to do that, to draw and discard every turn. Pretty good. I did not draw land, so Dragon Engine it'll be. Gigantic Flyer. Don't really have great attacks into the 5/5. I didn't even know. Oh yeah, as long as you have 3 or more artifacts that has Death Touch. That's kind of a weird addition. But sure, I mean, I'll take it. Trench Stalker. As long as you've drawn 2 or more cards this turn, it has Death Touch and Lifelink. Ooh, yeah, with Urza type abilities where you're drawing another card every turn. Big Lifelinker there. And a Soul Guide Lantern to exile our Menace card from grave. Our Unearth card, more importantly. That's very sad. I'm not into that. Attack for 5 plus 10 mana plus 5, that'd be. I can kill them here. Sorry, 10 mana 10/10. I can kill my opponent here, so I will. I can dump 10 total mana into the Dragon Engine, which is an additional 5 power. So I'm dealing 10 damage in the sky, which means I just need to get 2 damage in. Unless my opponent has like literal unsummon, which I don't think is in this set. Alright. That will be 2 and 1. We got to cast some really gigantic artifact creatures there, which was pretty sweet. Probably the most rampy, gigantic stuff we've been doing in the format so far. This red-green deck is definitely where we're casting the most big, gigantic mech titans to try to win us the game. So we are 2-1 now. Game 4, here we go, on the play with a Teething Wormlet, let's do it. And my 10 mana 10/10 that I refuse to prototype. I love how the Brushwag rolls in, it's so adorable. It is tremendously adorable. Combat Courier from our opponent. I think I just want to curve out and make this Wormlet as big as possible, as quickly as possible. Letting away a land seems awkward though with a 10-drop in hand, but maybe I'm curving out. Maybe this is the one hand where I curve this out as a 5 mana 3/5. I do want to hit more cheap artifacts if I can. Yeah, let's go. This is the Teething Wormlet game this time around. If you can hear my cats, it's 40 minutes until dinner time. They get very, very needy, so my apologies if you can hear that in the background. The cats are fine. Don't worry about it. They are just angry. They hungry. They always want to eat early. And we just hope for no interaction from our opponent, just play this mutt. I think I'm discarding the forest this time, because I do want to have at least one red source. Alright, got another forest. Good draw, good draw. Uh-oh. Please no. Okay, they're just drawing the card. They're just drawing the card. It always scares me when somebody blocks with a Combat Courier, but that's the whole point of the card. That's reasonable. You expect it. You block it, then you sack with it. I'm just always expecting a combat trick. No, not a board wipe. Oh, getting board wiped in a brand new set always sucks because you just don't know the board wipes. You don't know how many there are. There's no way to play around it. Yeah, that's bad. That's almost always game if you get 3 for 1 as we did there. Not much else to say about that. We're going to play as best as we can from this point on, but that might have single-handedly turned the game in our opponent's favor. Our opponent has 7 cards in hand, we have 2. So, that could be it. It will just take quite a long time before we actually lose, but if we do, that's the turning point that cost us the game. Alright, never mind. Maze Mind Tome is such a powerful card, it can just bring us right back into the game, because that can single-handedly draw us 4 cards, which makes up for all of the cards we just lost out on. No block. Now I have to choose between doing 4 to my opponent or drawing a card here. I still do 2 if I don't pay into it, so it's really choosing if I want to spend 2 mana to do an extra 2 or 2 mana to draw a card, or 2 mana to play a 2/2. And I'm going to choose 2 mana to draw a card. No extra land there. I was pretty aggressive with my Scrapwork Mutt discards early on, digging for more cheap artifacts to work with Wormlet. But then the Wormlet died, so that obviously didn't play out very well. Combat Courier's back, so they're going to sack that to draw another card this turn, which means they're probably not committing anything else to the board. Relatively good position to be in then. Keep hitting our opponent for some damage here. We don't have to worry about anything yet. Wait to play their threats till later in the game. Cool. I've got the 5 mana to play the weak Rust Goliath, which is not where it's at. I'm probably going to draw a card off Tome and play Stoneseeker, although I could just curve out with 2 creatures this turn. It's probably better. The odds of our opponent having 2 board wipes are, I have to assume, astronomically low. I should play the Sprite first, because it's the weaker card, just in case they had a counterspell here. But counter unless I pay 4? Oh, that would be brutal. It is still day 1 of early access, so very new to the format. I'm not going to notice what I should be playing around until it already happens, which it's going to happen here, counter unless I pay 4. 100% should have went for our Gothian sprite first. Although if they're thinking this hard, I feel like that would be a really easy counter for my opponent if that's what they had. Unless they have the counter spell and a burn spell. Maybe they're just choosing to use the burn spell instead. Did I have... Maybe I had 4 mana up and I just didn't notice it? It must be that they have a burn spell and they're just going to blow up the Stone Seeker. Yep. 100% they're looking at it here. I think they're going to blow up the Stone Seeker on board. They sure are. Excavation Explosion. So it didn't really matter what sequence we did it, they were just going to kill all our cards. Blanchwood Armor. They're holding double blue and 1 up. If they don't have the double blue and 1 counterspell, they just die. So whatever. We don't have another play this turn because I'm just going to draw a card. Yep, that sucks, but gotta go for it there. We have nothing else to do for the turn, and they're not going to not hold up their counterspell from this point on, as long as they have it. The way they've been playing so far is very, very defensively holding up every counter at all times. Yeah, I'm going to assume this has been in their hand for a long time, but they've always been holding up the mana for counters. Be the 8th land after I get a Blanchwood Prowler down. If I mill a land off of it, I do. 8th land is here. So we're jumping the 4/4. We're not going to make it to Rust Goliath before we die to their board state, though. Yeah, I mean, next turn we have 7 mana, so we go pop the Maze Mind Tome, draw a card, gain 4, play a 3/5 Rust Goliath as a blocker. Maybe that's the line. Our opponent is to the point where they die to 2 Excavation Explosions, but I don't think I have 2 copies of that. I think I only have 1 in this deck. Unfortunately. Okay. We go to 1, we're not dead. Very close, but we are not dead. And Maze Mind Tome can switch that around. So no way to get haste here, no way to just kill my opponent. So we draw the card off of Maze Mind Tome, which then gains me back up to 5 life. Okay. Then I need blockers, so I play a 3/5 blocker. And my opponent can't really attack in now, and life totals are pretty even. So my opponent needs an additional card to break through this board state. We can hope that their cards in hand are dead cards, and then we just play a Phalagi Dragon Engine, attack once, and win. Oh. Alright, well, opponent went into Think Tank and then dropped the strongest card in the whole format. Wormcoil Engine. It's a mythic rare from the Retro Archive. Is there any way that we can... 7, 8, we have 9 mana. I'll have 10 mana next turn. I can attack them for 10 in the sky with this Dragon Engine. But I can't kill them because this worm coil engine gains them 6, puts them to 12. I don't think I have any outs here. I guess I just use these mutts and see if we do, but I'm pretty sure I don't have outs. The worm coil engine taking over the game. Nope. Again, I could have played this dragon engine, but then they go to 12. They kill me in like 2 swings easily, because even if I kill the worm coil, they get 2 3/3s out of it, and then they go wide, kill me next attack. And the only way to kill worm coil would be to double block it here, which kills both my creatures because it has death touch, and if I double block there, then I die to all this. Yeah, worm coil firmly wins the game. Opponent's deck, some just mega bombs in there. We got board wiped pretty hard, and then worm coil engine going to delete any chances we had of winning that close game near the end there. 2-2. Alright, here we are on the play for game 5, what could be the last game if we lose this one, so we gotta fight real hard here. We've got a turn 1 Wormlet, turn 2 Argothian Sprite, then an Excavation Explosion turn 3, which will give us a Powerstone, clear out a blocker from our opponents, and more importantly make this Wormlet bigger, start curving that thing up. Hopefully they play a really good 2-mana card. If they don't, I guess we're just attacking with Sprite. Maze Mind Tome's a beautiful draw. That gives us something to play this turn because I don't want to explode the Combat Courier. Send in both. They get their chump block with Courier and draw a card here. Scrapsmith from our opponent. They mill 3. If they hit an artifact, they put it in their hand. Otherwise, they get a counter on that. And they got Aeronaut's Wings to give their creatures flying. Equips for 2 mana and costs 2 mana to play, so I'm not that worried about it. Got exactly the mana to drop Stoneseeker to get a counter on Wormlet and draw a card off Maze Mind Tome, which sounds very appealing to me. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm not going to attack with the Sprite because it just trades into the Scrapsmith, which does not feel good. My apologies about the Discord boop. I am in the official Magic Arena Early Access Event Discord channel. Once again, thank you very much to Wizards of the Coast for providing me with this early access account, but you may get some boops from that here and there. It is muted outside of when they tag everybody. Blanchwood Armor is pretty spicy here, as is Excavation Explosion. So many spicy things to do. I don't know what's the best. I don't know what's the best. It's all pretty awesome. Probably explode the Scrapsmith here. Make the Wormlet bigger. Now they have no good blocks. And then we can use Maze Mind Tome. Yeah, they scoop them up. They scoop them up. I was going to say, and then we attack with everybody and use Maze Mind Tome this turn. And then we still have Blanchwood Armor to find a quick lethal in the future. Very nice stuff that game. That will lead us into 3-2, getting at least a 3-3 run, so a very right down the middle average run for the third draft if we lose our next game. That would balance things out after the 0-3 and 7-0. Put it right in the middle here for draft number 3. We'll see. Alright, here we are in game 6. Opponent is going to be on the play here. We've got a very good hand. Scrapwork Mutt and Maze Mind Tome we can play on turn 2. Arbalest Engineers setting up that Power Stone for us has always been sweet. And the Chain Dancer for big late gaming double striker. Alright, looks like game 6 there is just going to be a free victory there. There was a little bit of an error in Arena early on where we were just sitting there without hands for about a minute, and then the hands popped up, and I said I'll keep it, and then the timer went on to my opponent after that, so probably not my opponent's fault there, just kind of a little bit of weird little early access bugs or something there, but we are going to be 4-2, I guess, 3-2 technically still, as we head into game 7. Alright, here we are, game 7 on the play with a good curve. No 1-drop, but we've got a great 2-drop into 3-drop aggressive curve here. And that Blanchwood Prowler for later when we need to hit more lands. Again, apologies if you can hear them scraping on the door. They're trying to inform me that it's 20 minutes until dinner time. Alright, well, that's a 2-mana 1/4, so that is going to stop all of my attacks for about a century. Let's just set up a Powerstone here and get some mana ready, I suppose. Alright, Excavation Explosion is fine here. I guess we could finish off a 1/4 with it. Get a Powerstone for later, which is decent value. It's not great, but it is what it is. Alright, opponent draws some cards, get some life. Trying to set up an Ivory Tower control deck over here. Very classic control card from original Magic. If you can keep a really high land count in hand, you just gain like 3 type every turn. Wow, I might be having a stroke or something. If you can keep a very high number of cards in your hand, then you can just gain 3 life every turn. So it's a classic Magic the Gathering control card all the way back from the very... I think this was an alpha? I'm not sure. It was in a very, very early set. Probably just keep playing 2/2s. I'm only 1 mana away from putting counters onto one of these Argothian sprites, which will be very powerful. Rather than playing more creatures, we can just start making these bigger and bigger so they can't just chump block them every turn. Or not even chump block them, but have our creatures bounce off each other every turn. Another fail from the Archaeologist means it's just going to be a 2-mana 1/4. They need to hit a non-creature, non-land card to put that into their hand with that card. Alright, cool. We do have the 7 mana, so I'm definitely going to attack first, and whichever sprite gets blocked by a 1/4, I'll buff that one to kill the 1/4. For the turn, hoping that our opponent doesn't do anything with their 2 mana up. Machine over Matter, bounce it back to our hand. Alright, not a horrible deal. Because we don't lose the creature permanently, we can just recast it, but our opponent does lose their Machine over Matter permanently. So they are down a card there, even if it does slow me down. Could dump all my mana into the sprite here. They could go ahead and double block Engineers though, if I attack both now, pretty easily. I guess I attack with just the sprite, because they have a pretty easy double block lined up, so no blocks. Fair enough, let's replay the sprite. Play the Chain Dancer and draw a card. Got enough mana to activate a sprite and a Chain Dancer now. Still don't really want an Engineers to get double blocked. And I guess I get a lot of damage in with everything else if that happens. Alright, hopefully this works out. Oh, they are going to deal 2 damage to it. That's about as brutal as it could be. Since they get to kill it here, not even just save their card. Sure. Keep drawing cards with Maze Mind Tome, digging for some more threats. Opponent is still on only 4 lands. So they're probably waiting for like their 5th land to play something big. I've got the opposite problem. We're just looking for something big. But they're looking for the lands to cast it. Bushwhack is solid. Try to use this right now and see if anything happens. Another Union of the Third Path. Alright. They've got 1 mana up, so because that resolved, I've got a 4/4 now to go ahead and fight the lifelinker off the board. Now they can't double block my 2/2, and I can just attack with everybody. Perennial Behemoth. They can now play lands from their graves. They essentially just drew 3 cards there if this Behemoth stays on board, and it's a 7/7. It can't block the Sprite, which is good for me. Or not a 7/7, a 2/7. But it can block these two very easily. So I guess we're just all in on Sprite. No blocks. Just make it bigger. I can still play another card after doing that. We will go... Let's go Mutt Prowler, I guess. A little more mana efficient. Another Mutt. I'd rather play another Mutt than the Prowler, and I'll discard the Prowler here. Right. Titania Voice of Gaia is the draw. 3 mana, 3/4 reach. Opponent gets to surveil 2 and draw a card now, setting up their draws again. Alright, most of my big game-ending threats are artifacts, so we'll see if we can pull one out off the mill 3 here. Artifact, artifact, and non-artifact. Okay, we did. We got the Dragon Engine, and we have the mana to where we can afford it, which is really, really nice. Hopefully no counterspell from our opponent. That's the dream here. No counterspell, no removal spell. Very large Dragon Engine. Aetherflux Reservoir. They're like a life gain combo deck here, trying to get up to 50 to shoot me. They gain a life whenever they cast a spell, and if they cast multiple in one turn, they gain much more. I'm pretty sure Attack All just gets us there, but maybe there is like a Settle the Wreckage in the format. There's a Fog of War. Okay. Gain 1 for each creature on the battlefield's pretty big right now. That's actually pretty threatening. This is a cool deck for my opponents. Oh, it doesn't fog the big creatures. I did not realize that. I don't think I could have killed them, but I definitely could have done some more damage. I'm gonna stop playing more cards. I'm gonna just get absolutely got by a Wrath of God. Maybe a Perilous Vault here is the plan. Exile all creatures. I probably shouldn't have even played the Patrol. Just keep my mana up and keep dumping it into the Argothian Sprite. Shoot down to exile the flyer, and they gain additional life now, and they just scoop them up. Because it's not going to be enough, we can still go wide for the lethal swing next turn. Alright, I'll take it. We're now 5-2, maybe turning this into a 7-win run. Just need 2 more wins in these next 2 games. But a single loss will knock us out. So we'll see how it happens, see how it goes as we head into round 8. Alright, here we are in round 8 on the play. Turn 2 Scrapwork Mutt, just throw Blanchwood Armor on it and pray? Why not? Sounds fun to me, and we're already 5 wins in. Good enough for this draft run. The cats have been fed now, so we should be all chill for some quiet time. We just hang out and play some Magic. I like everything in this hand. I'm not going to discard anything here. Fingers crossed, Forest off the top. Just turn 3 Blanchwood Armor and just hope they don't have Obliterating Bolt? Nah, Maze Mind Tome off the top. Still a very good card. I'm pretty okay with that. Ward 2 on the 3/1's kind of brutal, but trading the Mutt into that is pretty solid. It's pretty fine. We are at the point in the game I do need more land, so I could just Bushwhack for a forest here. No attacks, just go for a trade on blocks against the Scrapwork Mutt. We might be trying to Blanchwood Armor a Falaji Dragon Engine that gets played for its prototype cost, because looks like they're going to have blockers on the ground for sure. No trades for the Mutt. We do have a Perimeter Patrol as an option. Don't have the mana to draw a card and cast a creature here, which is not phenomenal. I think I am going to prototype the Dragon Engine with Blanchwood Armor in hand. Text looks a little blurry on the prototyped version, or it's just my astigmatism kicking in. Looks really blurry here. Had the same issue with some of the Phyrexian cards. I don't even remember what kind of borders they were, but just some of the cards back in Dominar United. I think with some of the stained glass cards, actually, now that I think of it. Excavation Explosion, that's pretty good here. Powerstones are quite useful for me right now. Don't have the mana to play that and a creature, though. I could play Scrapwork Mutt and Obliterating Bolt. No, I can't. I don't have double red. I'm gonna turn the music down. I don't know if 2 songs were playing at once, but I get really paranoid about it, and it kind of sounded awkward to me. Yeah, I'm really not sure what I'm doing here. Let's play a Mutt here and see if we have another red source, maybe? Perhaps, perchance? We do. Okay, so now I do play 2 things in 1 turn, which feels very good. And that worked out really well. And then we pass turn. Alright, I said no distractions, then I got multiple texts and a Discord boop all at once, and now my phone is completely muted. Yikes, that's horrific. Blow up our Dragon Engine. We are out of threats. We've got a Blanchwood Armor with no creature to put it on. We need this Maze Mind Tome to do some work. Luckily for us, with this Powerstone, we basically have 6 mana. So we can definitely Maze Mind Tome every turn for good value. Teething Wormlet, not a terrible first draw. Forest is also not that bad because we have Blanchwood Armor. Gain a life every turn. I might have to just trade this Wormlet off. I'm at 10. We'll just make it a 5/5 Wormlet and pass. 5/5 Wormlet, pass and pray? Sure. That's probably where we're at here. Maybe should have dumped some Scries into the Maze Mind Tome to get it closer to gaining us the 4 life. So we are really getting beaten down here. They can blow up Wormlet or steal Wormlet, the game's pretty much over. But if not, again with Maze Mind Tome drawing us an extra card each turn, we can definitely draw into some threats. Stay in this game. They are going to use Bushwhack to pull out a land. Grab a Plains. Uh-oh, grab a splash color here? That could be disastrous. And another Argothian Opportunist, so they are really set up mana-wise next turn for any artifacts. Potentially like 1,000,000 mana here. I should probably tap green. Oops. Draw that card. Well, I mean, Wormlet's bigger. That's something. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Get a land off Prowler. I'm at 9. I'm at enough mana to cast anything except my 10/10. Alright, Mill Titania. Doesn't really matter too much. We don't want to Obliterating Bolt anything here. Pass turn. Now I have a 1/1 down to trade off with the Honor Guard. And I've still got a 6/6 blocker if my opponent doesn't have removal off of their white mana. Most green-red removal, probably not big enough to shoot a 6/6 right now. Awaken the Woods for a couple 1/1s that tap for mana. Pretty big if they've got something big to ramp into, which I assume they do if they wanted to cast that for 2 1/1s. Alright, Argothian Sprite's actually super reasonable here. So now, even if we keep hitting lands, we have something to dump all our mana into. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 mana from our opponent. We'll find out what they're ramping into soon enough. Uh-oh. That's more ramp. That's not the big card yet, that's just more ramp. I think we might see some 10/10 tramples, or even worse, some mythic rares like Phyrexian Portal. Got all 4 card draws off of the Maze Mind Tome, so that went pretty well. Still got the mana to use the Sprite, which is probably what we're doing here. It's that or Scrapsmith. Scrapsmith does dig for my game enders, but I'll only have 5 mana left afterwards, so I'll have to wait till next turn to do it, and I can't use Sprite in the same turn I do this. Yeah, I mean, making Sprite a 4/4 is not the wildest thing. They're just going to play something way bigger than a 4/4 next turn. So we need to dig for our outs, and none of those were them. None of those were game enders. Could attack with the Wormlet. The only way they kill it is a triple block there. But they can kill it. Alright. There's no way they have something that's too expensive for them to cast now, so we'll see what it is. Alright, 10/10 Reach Trample. That is good. That is quite strong. I was going to say, also, it is also manageable, though. If I can just play 1 artifact, the Wormlet does get Death Touch. Or, I guess 2 more. I need 3 total. But we just got some more lands. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I can't double use the Sprite. I can block Rust Goliath with a 7/7 Wormlet and a 4/4 Sprite, and we kill it, and they only kill one of our creatures. Helm of the Host Rust Goliath. Alright, well, that's game. That's game. That's another 10/10 Rust Goliath. Every single combat step. That's a very, very big bomb from the mystical archives of the set, the retro artifacts. Helm of the Host. Brutal card. It's going to win a game even if you put it on like a 2/2. Because you're just getting another 2/2 for free every single turn that stays around forever. You put it on a 10/10 Reach Trample and the game's going to end in like 1 turn. And you can even equip it to the token that you made. So even if I kill the main Rust Goliath, they can just move it to the other one later anyway. So we are pretty mega dead. But I'm going to let my opponent play with their Helm of the Host as much as possible here. We'll give them another turn of it. This is the early access event where I'll just try to have fun, play with the craziest things as possible. So I'll give them another turn of Helm of the Host shenanigans. That was unnecessary. And rude. I'll drop a Demolisher. And that's gonna be it. We do not have enough toughness to survive another 20 trampling power. So it'll be 5 and 3 this time around. Perfectly respectable run, even if you don't count the time that our opponent disconnected. This was a 4 and 3 run. Nice average run in the middle in between the very poor 0-3 and the very nice 7-0. So very balanced results so far in the Brothers War, and I'm loving the set. Crazy stuff happens, as you can see in that last game with our opponent duplicating 10-10 tramplers and stuff like that. But even just the synergy decks can do some nasty, nasty stuff. This deck was a lot of fun. This was the first time I think I actually got to like cast Rust Goliaths, which was great. That's what I was trying to do with the first deck I drafted, the green-black deck, but it was just a little too slow, never really got there. This deck really did, because we could apply early game pressure, like pretending to be red-green aggro, and then we had a good amount of just like creatures that are a relatively good body that also give a Power Stone, like the Stone Seekers and the Arbalists and stuff, to help get to these big spells. I wish I drew the Rust Goliath a little more, though. I feel like I drew Dragon Engine more often, and so ended up casting the kind of less cool card. Blanchwood Armor, it is a very risky card, as I said at the start, where you can get 2 for 1 pretty hard. It was probably one of the biggest underperformers in the deck. I never got to do any really cool stuff with it, because like my flyer just died before I could put it on there. That last game was the game where this could have really popped off. And then the one time that I could have Blanchwood Armored my Double Striker for lethal, my opponent had the counterspell for it as well. So Blanchwood Armor was definitely running into the risk aspects of the risk-reward nature of the card. But yeah, the removal was all incredible. The creatures were all solid. Maze Mind Tome, MVP, best card in the deck. Always draft that thing. It was nuts. Other than that, that's going to end today's video. Once again, I would like to thank Wizards of the Coast very much for giving me access to the Brothers War early access event. They've given me this preview account to show you all the set early, and that is where these videos are being recorded from. So once again, thank you very much to Wizards of the Coast for providing me with all of this account stuff for all of this content. We're going to be doing daily videos of the set until it launches on Tuesday, so 2 more early access videos, and then the set's going to be out for everybody. I think by the time this video is uploaded, this will be Sunday, so you might have a pre-release at your local game store if you want to go play the Brothers War in paper. Now is a great time to do that. Highly recommend pre-releases at your local game store, but if not, if you're seeing this video too late, the Brothers War hits Arena on Tuesday and is fully released in paper on Friday. So that's when you can play with this sweet new set. Other than that, if you want to stick around on the channel to see some more of these videos, you definitely can. If you want to get recommended more of these videos, you can like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send them to your feeds. And as always, thank you again very much for watching. And I'll see you all soon for some more Magic Arena.